guess let me know when you're ready to hit the record. It's twirling, okay. Ready? Yes?
I think we're all ready.
Oh, okay. Nope, we're waiting.
Uh-oh. It's Mrs. Smiley with
Miss
her Beretta.
Smiley's coming. Okay. Hi, come on in. Hi, Cheryl. Tonight we have can everyone hear me okay? We got the mics kind of fixed up tonight, so I think that the sound should be much better this evening. We have with us Charlie Schneider from Brands, Letter and Carroll, and he's going to be making a presentation on the proposed renovation of the South Plainfield Community Pool. The design that you're going to see here this evening is the product of numerous meetings that took place with myself, Administrator Cullen, Councilman Benjavanga, and Councilman Dean, along with the architect. And after the presentation tonight, there will be plenty of opportunity for question and answer time. Before letting Mr. Schneider take it over, I just wanted to give you an update on how we've arrived at this point. The borough for years has used RJR Engineering for pool consulting and advice. RJR to us has been more of a pool construction company, and the committee felt that it was important to retain a pool engineering design company. A few firms were interviewed, and the committee decided to hire Brandstetter and Carroll. Charlie Schneider is a civil engineer who specializes in aquatic design and has been with Brandstetter Carroll Inc. for over 16 years and is the leading designer for aquatic projects. Mr. Schneider provided the aquatic design for the pools in Princeton and the township of Morris in New Jersey, and over 35 projects in 8 other states. Since the founding of the firm 40 years ago, Brandstetter Carroll has focused on municipal architecture and engineering, and aquatics has been a part of that from the very beginning. Brandstetter Carroll have offices in Lexington, Kentucky, Cincinnati, Ohio, Cleveland, Ohio, and Dallas, Texas. Brandstetter Carroll started on its first project in New Jersey 14 years ago and has had at least one ongoing project each year since that time. Currently, we have 6 projects in New Jersey, representing 3 separate divisions within the firm. I think that's about it for the introduction. I don't know if you want to add any additional facts.
John, you want to say anything? Or?
No.
Yeah, and I'll just mention real quick, Charlie's going to do the exact same presentation, or pretty much the exact same presentation that was done back on February 28th. As I said, my name's Glenn Cullen. I'm the borough administrator, active member of the pool for years. Tiger Sharks, there's many of you in the crowd that I recognize. And as Councilwoman Faustini said, you know, originally we were looking at using RGR, and we really just felt that we needed a design engineering firm. We met with a couple different firms, and we just really felt that the work that Brandstetter and Carroll has done, if anybody's been up to Morris, the township of Morris, it's 2 fabulous pools there. I think it's Streeter and Ginty. I myself was at the Ginty pool. But anyway, I want to introduce Charlie. He flew in here earlier today, and I'll let him do the presentation. But I do want to say this: there's going to be plenty of Q&A at the end. But if you have a question during it, you know, certainly ask Charlie, and you don't have to wait until the end. We don't want you to forget your question either. So, with that, go ahead, Charlie.
I think so, right? Maybe just the whole thing. Is it? It's kind of, oh, there we go.
Thank you. Everybody hear me okay? Yeah. All right, thanks. All right, we're just going to go through this presentation we put together for the pool. First slide, we'll just go over is the agenda of what we're looking at doing today. We're going to be looking at the condition of the existing pool real quick to bring you all up to speed on where it's at.
Charlie, I'm
Yes.
going to interrupt, but I just want to do this in the beginning. This is actually going to be video tonight, so everybody in the crowd, you know, this is the time to smile if you want to be on TV. But we also are going to need you to talk a little bit more in the mic.
Okay.
So that they can hear you on TV.
Gotcha. Great.
Okay.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Then we're going to look at a needs analysis and a building program. This is how we come to to size pools in communities, to make sure that we're doing the right program. We're looking at this to make sure that, you know, that the pool is the right size for the community. Next, we'll look at a quick example remodel of what we've done, and then we'll go on and look at the recommendations of what we're proposing to do to the pool here in South Plainfield, and we'll end with the questions and answers. So the condition of the existing pool, you know, right now there's quite a few different issues with the pool. One, first off, you know, the wading pool doesn't meet the ADA requirements. It needs to have a ramp into it, so that it right away needs to have some major reconstruction done to it. The recirculation system has had major issues. They've did a fix a few years back where they have the pool lines, the recirculation lines running over the edge of the gutter. You know, this does not meet code, so the entire recirculation system needs to be looked at again. The main drain boxes at the bottom of the pool, there are issues with those as well. And the liners on both the pools have reached their life. They're well over 15 years old, so they need to be replaced. And the existing pool floors in need of repairs. Some of that has to do with the original construction of the pool, but there are places of it that's too thin and is cracking and breaking up a little bit. But the good thing to look at, some of the items in the pool, some of the work that's been done in the past few years, we can reuse. The filtration system was replaced in 2015, as well as the addition of the water slide. Both those we're looking at to recapture and reuse in the new facility. And the other thing important to remember that you look at whether or not you want to move the pool to a new location, but we're looking at using the existing filtration building, the existing parking lot, all the existing infrastructure of the pool will be reused. And this is a quick photo just showing the pool in its current condition. This was actually taken prior to the slide being installed in 2012 or 2015?
2015.
2015. So on to the needs analysis. This is where we look at the population and who would we expect and how many people would we expect at the pool. So South Plainfield right now has a population, we're looking in 2023, a population of 25,000 people. We would expect average daily attendance at 2% of that population, bringing about 500 people per day. Over the course of an 80-day season, that would bring 40,000 people a year. We're discounting that a little bit for the type of facility it is. So we're saying it's going to be, actually, we'd expect 30,000 people per season to attend the pool. And from there, we look at our peak hour attendance of 95% of the average daily attendance would bring 475 people. That would occur, you know, July 4th, midday is when you're going to get your peak hour attendance. From there, we can see that the pool surface area would need to be around 9,500 square foot. Water slides, we would like to see 2 slides on a facility that size, with beach and deck area of around 28,000, and shade structures around 4,700 square foot, and a spray ground or wading pool of 1,500 square foot. Now this is if we were going to go in and build a new facility. This is how we would start and size the facility for your community. We went back with that information and looked at what we have today, and right now we're just under 13,000 square foot of pool surface area. So the pool is a little bit larger than we would size, but it's definitely not well oversized, and it's not too small for y'all's community. And this is an example of what we did at Ginty in Morris Township. You can see this pool was built in 1967, and on the left you can see the condition of it prior to that. They were having the same kind of issues. They were losing I think 10,000 gallons a day out of that pool. It was extremely cold because of they kept on having to pump water into it all the time, so they're getting lots of complaints about the temperatures. The gutter systems and the decks were failing, but they had just replaced the filter system a few years before, so it's a really similar project to what y'all have today. And this is what you see when we were done with the pool. We left most of it intact, but we came in there and added new features and new zones and really updated the pool to what the current trends in aquatics are. So from that, this is what we're looking at for the pool here. We've got 4 different zones. We're going to look at each one of those zones a little bit closer. The wading pool first, then we'll go look at the zero depth zone, and then at the competition lanes, and then finally to the activity zone that's in the deep end of the pool. So for the wading pool, we've gone in there and we've added zero depth entry. Actually, we've done it on two sides of the pool, creating this a bow tie shape and with spray decks on either side. So these would not actually have water in them. They would just be wet decks. We have a climbable play structure and some spray features on this side too, as well as water tables and features that are very approachable to young children. The goal here is to get kids in there, to get them motivated and activated into the water to where they want to go out there and experience and explore into the water without it being too threatening or overwhelming for them. So here are some examples of the features we're proposing. This is just like a water maze. They can go up and just touch and interact with it and change the way the water moves across the surfaces and learn how the water will react to what they're doing. This is another example of that. These are little pads that are on the concrete. When you jump up and down on them, it creates the sprays jump and change in their heights. It just creates different effects, and you can team up and have, jump together or jump at different intervals to create different effects to it. This is the play structure we'd be proposing on the side of the pool. The slides, in this case, go into the water. What we're looking at doing, though, is moving this whole structure over to the side. And so where the slides are going out onto the spray decks, this really keeps more of the open space of the water itself available for people to swim in. And this is an example of a spray feature. And here's one of those water tables where kids can get up and again interact with the water and change the way it reacts and swing the tables around just to learn different. This is moving on into the zero entry and leisure areas. So this would be the current area of the pool where the steps are. The steps would actually probably be about right here currently. And we're tearing out that section of the pool and proposing putting in a zero depth entry. This entry would also have an ADA ramp and a play feature here that's a little bit larger and has more sprays and dumping features. This is something that older kids would start to interact with. The water's going to be falling down on them, so it's a little more, a little bit more adventurous for them. We're also created this vortex or whirlpool area over here for the kids to get in. I have a photo of that coming up. And the stairs on this side, which would also have the ADA handrails in to help give multiple points of entry for people who need access. Would also still have the lift in the pool, but this would give the three main means of ingress into the pool for ADA. Also, we're looking at proposing shade structures over the pool water and on the and benches inside the pool area too to create this leisure area.
Charlie, can you just explain what the benches are? What's it? The water there would be roughly about, I don't know, 6 inches to a foot, right? You'd be sitting on a bench.
Yeah, so the water here, it starts at 0 inches here and goes down to 5 foot all through this zone. And the benches in the water would be approximately 18 inches wide and about 18 inches in the water. They would vary a little bit on the deeper side. You could get them down into 24 inches of water, just providing seating at the edge of the pool. And here's an example of a larger play structure. This is on a spray pad, but it would also work at the zero entry area. And you can see, they got the dumping buckets and water coming down on the children now. Instead of them being able to approach it, the water's interacting with them from the top. This is another example of that with some dumping bells. Here's an example of some shade that's over top of the water. This is one of the first pools where we really started pulling the shade into the water. This was built back in 2006. Since then, it's just really popular to have that, to be able to be in the water and in the shade at the same time. And here's an example of a whirlpool or vortex feature. There's jets all the way around the edge of it that swirl the water. This one right now is turned off or those two people would not be able to be in the middle of it. It kind of forces you on out to the outside of the whirlpool. And here again is some shade and benches that are inside the water. Yes?
When you say vortex, what does that mean?
It's the water, it's like a whirlpool or a vortex. The water is spinning. So it's just like when it's going down a drain. That's what it looks like. It doesn't quite open up that much, but it gets close to it, and you can see the whirlpool in the middle of it.
It's not heated, but it's a regular whirlpool.
Yeah, no, it's not like a whirlpool tub kind of thing. It's not like a sauna or anything like that. This is just movement of the water around in a circle.
And Charlie, you said that these are very, very popular.
Oh, they're extremely popular with young kids. This would be the adolescents up to the preteens. And this area here is a bench, and you can see all the different handrails. The two handrails for the ADA accessibility are in the middle here. This is a big change for the lap lanes currently. Currently, there's a 50-meter lap lanes going the length of the pool, and north and south here is where the 25-meter lap lanes are. Those currently are 27 meters long, so they're not regulation length. They're also kind of narrow. They're not regulation width either. So we're going from a 27-meter with 6-foot wide lanes to a true 25-meter pool with 7.5-foot lanes. I think this will be a big improvement to what you currently have.
And I guess Charlie just explained it's hitting the wall there, but yet that wall also does have an opening to get into the...
Yes, so we created a peninsula coming out, and this is, I believe it's 10 to 15 foot wide, so there's plenty of room to run the competitions on still. But there's also an opening on this side to be able to continue on into the rest of the pool. One of the main benefits of running the lanes this way is that we no longer have to close the lap lanes if you're using the dive well and the slide. So the lap lanes can remain open longer and during the course of the day. And this last zone is the activity zone or multi-purpose zone. Here we have 4 different activities going on. The first, is your existing slide. We're maintaining it. We've added 2 climbing walls to the end and also a second slide on the other side. So your current slide is a closed flume or tube. We're looking at the new slide would be an open slide or an open flume. Here's an example of the climbing walls and of the proposed slide. And that's an example of what your existing slide looks like. And again, another picture of the climbing walls. At first, the first slide showed the opaque nature of them. We much prefer the clear climbing walls so that you can see on both sides of it. It makes it easier to guard.
What kind of material is the wall made out of?
The walls are acrylic.
So real quick, I guess just mention, I think the climbing wall seems like a new feature to everybody. I guess you're telling me this is one of the most popular features that you're
Yeah, the climbing walls are extremely popular. They're much more popular even than the diving boards. You can get more people through in the same amount of water. If you look at it from an attraction or a ride, diving boards are, they just take longer to get the people through. The climbing walls are very, very popular.
Sorry, what's
Go
the
ahead.
depth of the pool in the activity where the climbing wall would be?
So right now, the pool was shallowed up because of groundwater issues back in 2015. So it's going to be 7 feet deep, and we're going to keep it at 7 feet deep right now. We're not looking at redoing or making it any deeper again. That does limit the height of the climbing walls, but it's still appropriate. So to sum up on the recommendation side of it, the attendance forecast, again, we're looking at 30,000 people annually. On most of the models that we would look at capturing $6 per person per visit for 30,000 people. That would bring in a revenue of $180,000 a year. Operating expense forecast at 85 cents a gallon on a 200,000 gallon facility you'll be looking at about $170,000 to operate. So looking at this, we're just covering, yes?
So that operating cost, is that the total running cost of the pool for the whole summer? Or
Yes.
is that simply the amount of water?
No, that's just the way that we estimate how much it would cost to run a facility, but it would be the total operating cost of the facility, you know, chemicals, lifeguards, everything. Yes.
When you said a price $6 per visit, so it's now going to be as per visit you pay the
No,
dog?
no, and that's just our common model for revenue forecasts. We've looked at, y'all are more of a membership-based, and those membership numbers seem to equate with the per visit number very well. It's just a different model. And then Glenn, I don't know if you want to talk to the capital debt service obligation portion of it?
Yeah, I mean, I know there's been a lot of discussion about this. What is this, $20 increase? Is it an increase every year? And essentially what we're looking at is we're saying that if the debt service, the 2.475, we would have to roughly put down $125,000 upfront in cash in order to be able to borrow that. So what we're saying is, in the first year, on average, the capital and debt service in year one is about $20, is what would be added essentially to the tax bill. And what we're saying is the ongoing debt service cost each year, principal and interest, is really going to equate to about that number. It's actually slightly less, but we know there could be a couple of surprises. So on average, I think the number we had was like 18, so we didn't want to underestimate it. So we're saying really on average, the pay down of that, roughly $2.4 million debt obligation is really going to equate to about what would be $20 per household. And then obviously 20 years from now, you no longer have, I kid you one second, that bond will retire and you would no longer have that cost. Okay, ma'am.
That $20 per household, how are you coming up with the $20? Is everybody in town going to be charged $20?
Well, it's going to be based on how you're assessed. So
$20 is on what assessment?
$20 is on assessment of approximately $124,000. So that's,
Where's your $123,000?
well, that's what the average home in town is assessed at, because we haven't had a reassessment since, I think, 1985. So even though I know you're saying that, like anybody in this room here, if you look at your assessment on your tax bill, it is not going to equate to the sale of your home. I mean, you look at anybody here, I don't care if you live on the north side of town, south side of town, essentially your assessment is about 37% of your real value. So the average is $20. So if you have a larger home, maybe it's 25. If you have a smaller home, maybe it's 16. So that's how we get that average number located. So if you're in, I don't mean to pick on any areas, but if you're living in Geary Park, if you live where I grew up in Clinton Place, those homes are probably assessed at $100,000. So I know when you're saying, where you're going to find something for $123,000, it's not home sale. That's the assessed value, and the assessed value is what the taxes are based on. Get Joe.
I love it.
Okay.
My son was a manager for one time, and he loves it. But my one question, and it's really not for you, it's for the town people. Are we going to get rid of the sand and the volleyball court? Because we know where I sit. And we watch the kids jump in the water, go to the sand by the volleyball, roll around in the sand, they're covered with sand, and then they jump in the pool, and then you've got all that sand and scum in the pool. That pit needs to be removed.
Yeah, and I think that's something we could do. We're looking at changing a lot of things. I know one of the questions that was raised earlier was the rates. We really think the rates are going to remain comparable. I mean, I can't say at this point that if the senior rate is 70, I can't say it's going to be 70. I don't know if it's going to be 71, but it's not going to change much more than that. What we're really looking at is we're looking at the guest passes. We had a situation where there was 10 guest passes for each person. I think one of those things, they're going to become such a hot commodity. We're looking at the guest passes. I think swimming lessons were $10 for a fee. all the neighboring towns are, are north of $50, many of them. So some of those things are the things that we're probably going to look at changing. We're also looking at, what I had said at the last meeting is, when we opened up the library, we had a 180% increase in our membership. When I went to the Ginty pool, what was described to me after 4 years, it went from like 1,200 members to about 2,000 members. So they had about a 70% increase. So we think it's very reasonable to believe that there is going to be such a significant increase that this $20 that I'm saying isn't going to come to fruition. But I don't really have a basis for that. So I'm not going to stand up here and say, we're going to borrow all this money, we're going to have all these new members, and it's not going to cost anybody anything. And we just kind of felt that that just wasn't realistic. To be able to sit down and say, we're going to do what Morristown did, or we're going to do what the library did. I mean, I think there's enough reason or suspicion to think that there is going to be a fairly significant increase that is going to mitigate the cost of the debt service obligation going forward. But we're putting it out there saying, if that didn't happen, on average, it's going to cost the residents of South Plainfield $20.
Hey, you know what? Do you want them to hold the mic? Because then nobody's going to hear what you're
Okay.
asking.
Yeah, you're right.
All right,
Yeah.
Charlie, do you mind handing over the mic?
I'm gonna get them. Yeah,
There we
because,
go.
yeah, no one will hear your question. So now if you talk into there, though, everyone can hear what you're saying, and it might make more sense if somebody wants to watch it later, instead of just hearing Glenn's response.
If you could just pass this.
Pass it around, maybe?
My other question was, I agree with you wholeheartedly. I think it's going to increase. As the president of the library board, and Christine, as you as a past trustee of the library board, we see increases every month in membership. We have been able to add more programs, and we get, I mean, the Monday night movies, we get probably more people watching the movies than the Regal gets, okay? So I agree with you totally that we're going to increase membership. And especially with these features, you go to any outdoor water park, go to any hotel, they have all these features, and the kids are in those whirlpools and climbing boards and everything. Now, my question is, and my son wanted me to ask you this, the bathrooms, if we're going to have an increase in population coming to the pool, we've got to do something with the showers because some of them just don't work.
Correct. What I'll say, there's a couple of items. One, when Brandsitter and Carroll came in and did an assessment of the pool, we don't meet the bathroom ADA requirements just based on the pool size. So based on the pool size, we're a bathroom short. We're looking at a couple of different items. One of them was actually Councilman Dean Benjavenga about having an additional outdoor kind of bathroom. One of the things we're actually looking at is actually converting the first aid room, actually that room into a family bathroom, renovating both the women's room and the men's rooms, or locker rooms, I don't know what you want to call them, but we're looking at renovating both of them as well. So there is some money within this plan to take care of some of that, but we know that we're going to need an additional bathroom. What I do want to mention, and I just want to add on to what Charlie had said, is we're very pleased with, everybody that's familiar with the baby pool, you kind of just like, it's a leap of faith and you got to fall in it when you're little. So,
Yes.
so the bow tie version that we have, making noise here. The bow tie version that we have is going to be essentially zero entry, but really you're going to have play structures on the side. Yeah, maybe that's you.
I think so.
In addition to that, so what we had thought is, we went with the zero entry, what you saw, that slowly, as you look at what you have here, it's really kind of an aged up diagram. So it goes from zero, larger play structures, as Charlie said, 2 feet, 3 feet. You have a whole leisure area where people can sit on the wall and kibitz and do whatever you want to do. You can have shade structures, then eventually you get to the lap lanes, and then obviously you have the activity zone. I mean, one of the things for anybody who's a pool member is you get to like the second week of August, and you really aren't open to 7:30 at night because it's really getting dark
Oh, yes,
much
we
earlier.
forgot, that's
So in addition to this design, some of the things that you don't see is I think there's, what, 38 lights actually inside the pool?
Adding lights, yeah.
So there's lights inside the pool, and we have some, not a ton, but we actually currently have some outside lighting on some of the decking. So, the thought is, the seasons, we really can't do a lot with spring and fall, but what we can do is we're thinking that we would have the opportunity, particularly in July and August, to have events that would go beyond what we're normally used to, because there'll be more daylight and we'll actually have more lights within the facility.
Yeah, and if parents work, and then you get home from work a little late, you can still head over to the pool, because perhaps we can just, we can stay open a little longer and accommodate them too, which should attract more membership as well.
I have one last question, not mine. Someone asked me to ask this. Will there be an outdoor shower like they used to have, so that people can kind of rinse off their suntan lotion before they enter the pool, so you don't get that scummy area?
Yeah, so that's one of the things we did talk about with bringing it up to compliance with everything else, is that there will be some outdoor showers, particularly maybe along the lawn area by the pump house, maybe a couple different spots where we can put little spray heads out there that people can rinse off. Again, even with the volleyball stuff, hopefully if it does stay, that people will utilize it more because it's in that area that they can rinse off before they dive into the pool. Another thing that's going to change too is if you look on the side of the design where that little blue rectangle is, that's going to be the new main entrance into the pool. That'll be right off of the parking lot that's across from the turf field. That's going to become now the new main entrance going into the pool. Along the front row of the fence line there as well will be plenty of handicap parking spots as well. So you'll be able to come right in through the fence, and that's going to be some kind of like outdoor shed structure, pool house type thing, where you'll be checking in and then walking right in. So the bottom of the plan where the little white cutout is the actual pool house, the main house now, where you would come in. But with some of the renovations that will be going on potentially with the parking lot, the main access will, you're not going to be able to have crosswalks coming across Katy Lane as well.
Yes, ma'am.
I have two questions. She's got a loud voice.
Thank you. I probably don't need this, but I'll use it anyway. I have two questions. First of all, you mentioned that we were reassessed in 1985, which, of course, sort of implies that, a reassessment's going to come any day now.
No, I'm just stating, when somebody says, where the heck did you get 123,000 from? That's
But still,
where I got it from.
if we haven't been reassessed since 1985, don't you think we're probably going to be reassessed soon? And of course, that $20 per household is going to jump.
No, and here's the reason why is, with the reassessment, what's supposed to happen is everybody gets cut into a third. I know that sounds kind of harsh, but you're going to have a third that'll probably have the taxes go up, a third that'll stay the same, and a third will go down. So depending upon, that's supposed to be the model. I'm not the assessor, but that's typically, it's supposed to be revenue neutral. Those people that go up don't think it's neutral. Those people that go down usually are very happy. But that's typically how it's going to be. We haven't passed any ordinance, authorizing a reevaluation. I think I could ask Councilman Dean and Councilman Faustini. I don't think it's on next week's agenda, right? Or the week after that. So I don't think
No,
it's
but it may be
imminent.
on the agenda once the pool is
Someday it's going to
installed.
happen, but it is
Right.
not in the imminent near future. But it's supposed to be that the reassessment is really not supposed to be to increase everybody's taxes. It's, essentially.
But you just said that it was based upon the average household, so theoretically, the
The
tax.
assessment, the average assessment on the average household.
Right, so
Okay.
I don't understand how you can say that even if we are reassessed, our portion that's going to go to the pool is not going to go up. If our taxes go up, that will go up. So
what'll-
$20 is really kind of lowballing it,
What'll
don't you
happen
think?
is, no, not at all. What'll happen is if, like right now, when I'm saying you're at this ratio of 37%, if our tax rate is, I don't have my tax rate in front of me. Let's say it's 5.9 points, the tax rate. So what's going to happen is your value of your house will no longer be assessed at 123,000. Maybe it's assessed at 250, but now your rate is no longer close to 6, it's no longer 5.978, it maybe has dropped to 2. So that's really, and I don't want to get too much into the weeds here with assessments, but that's really how it works. So what's going to happen is your base goes up, but the rate goes down.
All right, my second question
okay.
is, if the membership goes up, how does that impact anything
Well,
with
if
the other
membership,
taxpayers?
yeah, I mean, if the membership goes up, then the operating of the pool will be more profitable. So one of our main issues right now is our membership really hasn't changed significantly in years. The pool itself, similar to what Mr. Snyder had said, the water was always cold because we always have to fill it because it's leaking like crazy. They're dumping chemicals over the side because they can't use the computer system because we're losing so much water out of the pool that's, built in 1960, well, it opened in 67. The construction started in 65, actually. So those costs, we believe, are gonna, things like the chemicals and everything, that's gonna go down significantly. So any increase in membership is going to be increasing the profitability of the pool. One of the issues that we have is we don't really have any non-residents. So like if you looked at the Clark pool, almost 50% of their residents come from either Edison or Colonia. This pool here, between the 2 slides, the wall, the sitting benches, it's going to have things that some of the competing pools don't have. So I think what we're going to do is we're going to have a significant increase in membership here in South Plainfield, and I think you are going to get Edison residents and other residents that are interested.
So if the pool is more profitable, will that help mitigate the cost to the taxpayers?
Yes. One of the thoughts that I know Administration of Finance has discussed is that at some point in time, once this goes out to bid, that we would have some type of interlocal agreement where a certain amount of money would come back from the pool utility to the municipality. And municipality would recognize it as revenue, which would be an offset to taxes.
I see.
But,
Okay.
but that wasn't put into the $20 number. And we did that on purpose because we did not want to have anything too flowery.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Here,
Yeah, hopefully all the new design elements, the new kiddie pool will appeal to even more younger children. The ones that are a little bit more timid, a little afraid of the water. Parents will still be more inclined to bring them. And there's a lot of sensory components involved with water and water play. Yeah. I mean, there is that inclusive property to it because, children can just kind of get their feet wet or just get their hands wet and just learn to experience the water. Those who are more timid. And then in the area that is the 4-foot area today, then there's some of the spray features in there, but, maybe the kids that are more timid, they would shy away from that. So that would be for the next age group up, along with that vortex area. And then the activity zone is really for kind of the kid that I always felt as a pool member, we kind of start to lose when they get to a certain age and maybe they don't want to come with their parents. They don't want to be with mom and dad. Well, now it's kind of cool because they have their own area to hang out and there's 2 slides to choose from, plus the rock climbing wall. And that really appeals to that, kind of pre-teen, early teen years. So we really tried to look at, things to put into this pool that will appeal to, all different age groups. More ADA, it's ADA compliant now completely. Having the 0 entry makes it very easy for anybody to get in and out. And maybe, you don't want to go all the way in. I don't know, some days when it was like maybe not that hot and you didn't want to go in, it was a little cold, but now you can kind of, saunter in or hang out on the wall. So we think with this broader appeal, it will definitely bring more membership.
And just to off of what Christine's saying, and one of the other thoughts, and Charlie had mentioned it in the presentation, and I could just tell you as a former, parent of a tiger shark, I used to love the swim meets. I still think I like the swim meets more than the baseball games. But I can just tell you, I know there would be a lot of grumbling that, you have a swim meet and the whole pool really shuts down. So now when you have a swim meet, the whole activity zone is still going to be open. You know, the wading pool is still going to be open. You know, the sitting walls are still going to be open. So, you know, we try to look at this as many ways as possible to be appealing to everyone, but also at the same time not to exclude anyone and to make the pool itself more available to all the residents that are members.
Yeah, I just like to know, when the pool first opened, it was a private entity, right, Mr. Cohen?
You know, when I look at it, the name of the entity, I actually have the deed, is something like the South Plainfield Community Pool Corporation. And when the South Plainfield Community Pool Corporation turned over to the borough, there was no change in deed. So I just, you know, the records that I have, I mean, just so everybody knows, when the pool opened, I was 7 days old. So I don't really remember who actually had the ownership, but I can just tell you, that the deed that we have in assessing, there was never any, I can't find in the files, in the record, I've heard all the same things, that at one time it was a private entity. I could just tell you what had happened was the pool was given over by a bank in South Plainfield, like in 1947. And then, and I'm assuming it was given over because it was kind of a swamp. And then eventually this pool, they started construction in 1965. They actually were given the CO in January of 67. I know that I've heard all the same stories that in the 70s or 80s, that corporation went defunct and it was turned over to the municipality. It had to have been some type of quasi-government entity, even though everybody's calling it private. In my head, and like I said, this is just a guess, I'm guessing it was a utility back then, but everybody was calling it a corporation, and then just municipal government kind of changed the name. That's what I believe. I could be off. I'm not a historian, and I don't know what happened in 65. I can just tell you the deeds haven't changed over in assessing, and our deeds go back a very long time.
All right, thank you. Also, the $180,000 operating expense, does that include your workman's comp and your liability insurance?
Yeah, I mean, those things are all under the GIF. I mean, all of that is built into the borough's main insurance. I mean, that workers' comp covers all of our borough employees, and it covers all of our vehicles. So, you know, they're allocated a portion of that. You know, we have workers' comp that covers our volunteers, our volunteer firemen, and if they get hurt on the job, I mean, all that, you know, so our workers' comp, you know, it covers a lot of different things in town here, and this would be one of them, yes.
All right. Also, how did you get to this position where you have to spend over $2 million? Was the recreation department just putting off maintenance, or is it just the cost of doing maintenance on the pool that just added up over years?
Well, I mean, here's what I can tell you right now. I mean, the pool itself is 52 years old. It's probably twice its expected useful life. The pool itself has been operating at a deficit for over 2 decades. So it started operating at a deficit in 1997. The only work that has been done to the pool, really to the shell, was in 2015 in what's called the activity zone there. So one of the things that Charlie had mentioned is, you know, we had made the pool depth that used to be 12 feet, which is now 7 feet. And we put in the new pump house and everything else. But as for the shell itself, the only real shell modifications that really ever took place were there. I know a number of you know back in 2004, we did put a liner on the pool. At the time we put the liner on the pool, you know, it was 30-some years old. I don't know, it was 33 years old. It was already old. The core drillings that have been done on the pool itself, the base in many areas is 3 inches thick, or the floor, I guess I should say, is 3 inches thick. The pool engineers are telling me that should be, I don't know, anywhere between 8, 10, or 12 inches thick. When it's 3 inches thick, it's more prone to cracks, leaks, and like I said, I'm not an engineer, but you know, those types of things, the pool has lived well beyond its useful life. And one of the things is as we've made repairs, the repairs have kind of kept the pool going the way it was, but there was, other than maybe the new slide, the new green slide we put in, there really weren't many repairs. I mean, the baby pool, I think I said when it started earlier today that it started out on Clinton Place. The baby pool, when we used to walk down Avon Avenue, is the same baby pool, I believe, from, the late 60s. So there's a number of things here that are 52 years old. And so how, when you look at that, essentially we're building a whole new pool, and building a whole new pool is expensive. I mean, I don't know. I wish I could slice it in a different way.
Yeah, I'd say too that, if we look at pools being renovated, their first renovation usually starts around 25 years of age. Depending on how well it's constructed is how major of a renovation that is. When you get pools that last 50 years, they were built well to begin with. But when it gets to 50 years old, all the piping has to be replaced. All the deck around there, it needs to be replaced. You're getting into the problems with the way the pool was designed back in 1965 just doesn't meet code. That has skimmers all the way around it. I mean, you never build a pool this size with skimmers today. So there's things like that that really start to add up after year 25 to year 50 to where you need to have that major renovation. The positives, again, replacing the filter system 5 years ago, we're going to, all of that investment is going to be reused. The pump, the filter, the chemical system, but now it's going to be able to work even better than it did before because it's going to have a proper recirculation system.
Now, I know we have, Katie, you're a guard too, right? Okay. Katie's one of our swim coaches. So when we finally went to having to put, I guess, over the wall, the return lines, by that point in time, we have a whole computerized system for, I guess the chemicalized water, would that be the right word? Yes. The chemical feed system to come back. We haven't been able to utilize that because there's just so much water loss that those things are kind of just being dumped over the side versus being able to come in at different intervals within the pool itself. Yes, ma'am.
Glenn, I have one more question.
I'm sorry, ma'am.
Is the pool, American Disabilities Act, up to speed with that now, or is it
Now it will be.
the current pool?
The current pool, no.
No, now,
So
now with the new renovations, now it will be brought up.
All right, if,
100%.
so the new pool will be up to ADA requirements?
Yes.
Correct.
All right.
Correct.
And also the $20 is gonna be assessed onto what? Onto your taxes, right?
It'll just be in your regular tax bill.
Yeah.
It won't be a separate line item.
No, but it'll be added on to your taxes like every other tax in this town that goes up. Plus you also have to consider the other major tax nightmare that is coming at this town called Crossroads at Durham. That's gonna be a major tax headache. This is minor compared to what that thing is gonna do to us. So I think the town should take that into consideration too.
Well, I mean, I'm just here tonight
Yeah,
to
for
put
the
on the
pool.
presentation for the pool, so.
Thank you, Glenn.
You're welcome, ma'am.
How long will this pool last? What's the projection?
So
Go ahead,
it would-
Charlie.
It would go back, I would have to say 25 years again, you would start to look at needing to do renovations to it, not major. I can't say that it's going to last 50 years after it again. I'd like to, but I can't say that. But, 25 years is a good benchmark for any of the, because then the filters are start going down again, the slides are going to start aging, and
One of the things that I will mention that hasn't been brought up, that was brought up the last presentation, is there was questions about, this previously being built on, I guess it was like Holly Lake, and with the groundwater problem. And that's one of the things that's already been built in. As we finally do the construction, there is a possibility that we would put in, I think Charlie used the term, a dewatering system for the pool.
Main drains.
I'm sorry?
The main drains.
The main drain. So.
well, not the main, but also drains out
Yeah.
in the wet areas, under drains, to be sure we get proper drainage. So we don't run into some of the same problems y'all had in the past.
Correct.
Could you tell me what the lifespan would be on, like, the climbing wall? How long would that usually last, approximately?
Won't hold you to it.
Yeah, really, those are new features. They've not been out on the market very long.
What about the shades?
Shade structures usually, you start replacing the fabric after about 10 or 12 years, and I'd probably say.
Really, they last that long?
Yeah, they're pretty, very durable, yeah. And I'd say that the climbing walls would probably be a good 15 years before you had to start looking at replacing major components.
Had you considered replacing the diving boards that were taken away for our diving team?
Can't.
That would be a problem with the dive well.
You won't have the depth for,
Yeah.
to go
Well,
back
I
down to
realize that,
deep.
but you're redoing the whole pool, so that could be changed, correct?
But with the is it because of the groundwater issue that, down below is what caused a lot of the problems, is why the pool was raised up to the 7 foot?
But you
Yeah.
just said that you were going to be addressing that, right?
Yes, but still, what the work that was done to raise it up to 7 foot would have to be taken out. And we don't know now what the condition of that shell is underneath it. So more likely than not, if we were to go back and put a dive well in, we'd be looking at replacing the entire dive well. So it's added cost on to the rest of the project. Could it be done? Yes.
Okay, is there any way for you to give us an idea of how much all these separate little things, additives that you're putting in, like the whirlpool, the shades, the climbing wall, all those bells and whistles, is there a way to let us know the costs of all those things that you're adding onto it? Just so we can see how much that is adding to the cost of our pool? Just, thinking about trying to keep our costs down as much as possible.
He's going to look up the number right now.
Yeah, I have it. I hope I have it in this package.
If you don't mind, if you want to take another question thank you.
I don't have a question, but I just want to add a different voice to the mix. So I'm fairly new to town. My daughters are 5 and 2. And so when I see this, I really see their childhood. We're teachers. They're going to spend most of their time at the pool in the summer. And to me, $20 or even $40 or even $100 seems like a pretty good deal. And I would hope that when I'm older and my kids are grown, that I would be okay with spending $20 towards that. I mean, I spent $20 at ShopRite. I almost spent $20 at Starbucks. I just want to add that voice to the mix because there are a lot of kids who are going to benefit from this. And also, I'm excited to have a town pool that other people want to come to, and are willing to pay way more than I will pay as a resident to be there. So just trying to add, a little diversity to
Sure.
the mix.
One of the things too, I know there's a lot of people been asking, like maybe not keeping it at this location. We don't have really any other areas to go ahead and put it at. And if this is gonna cost $2.495 to keep it at this location, it's probably double that if we had to move it to a whole nother place, build parking lots, build a building, sewers, and, starting all over, pump systems and everything like that. That's one of the main reasons why we're just focusing on keeping it in this actual location.
I have 2 questions. They're totally unrelated to each other.
Okay.
The one young woman was asking about the dive tanks. To put in diving boards wasn't part of the problem, never mind now that the depth is wrong, but wasn't part of the problem the insurance of insuring the safety of diving boards and the kids?
I mean, it would have been a rider for us, but I don't think that was really the main factor. When I was up in Morristown, they actually do have a little high dive up there. And I believe the tank well there is now 14 feet for that
It is.
dive well, so it's beyond what we had at 12. I couldn't really get an answer at that time whether or not the diving boards that we had, the spring ones that we had, the original ones that everybody really liked, not the ones that we had for a couple of years and no one liked. I'm not even sure if the 12-foot depth was even adequate enough anymore. So I think we would have had to have even gone beyond the 12 feet. And we just looked at it. It made it really cost prohibitive. I mean, what we had looked at, one of our thoughts was to actually put the dive well on the other side where the diving blocks used to be. But the problem is, if you put them over there, now all of a sudden it was impeding, you know, the swim lanes and everything else. It was creating a whole new set of problems. So the only thing that we could have done was to leave it back where we're gonna have these rock walls, and we'd have to rip out everything that we just did 3 years ago. So, and it just, you know, it didn't make economic sense.
There's still I mean, not that it's a problem, but there's still the whole thing that there's spring water under there.
Correct.
And that's why you can't go down as deep as
Correct.
you did.
We could be taking a bigger risk by
Right.
going back down to that
Correct.
depth and not knowing how long it'll really affect the
There's
pool.
actual springs under there.
My question is when Democracy Week happens, if the pool is voted down and the residents decide no, will there be an opportunity to revisit this again, possibly at election time, with a lesser cost and cutting out some of items that maybe the town would not feel are necessary to get a lower cost for the pool? Will we be able to revisit that in 6 months, or?
Well, we're gonna have to revisit it. I mean, we're gonna do something, you know.
Yeah, we can't leave it as is, and one of the things we gotta look at right now as well is we're $600,000 still in debt on an outstanding bond for what it is. So even if this doesn't go through, we still owe $600,000 that we'd still have to pay on to.
Correct.
Plus roughly another, what'd you say, about 250,000 to fill in the pool.
Remove the
concrete and fill in the pool. So-
raise the building.
Yeah, so then, now we just have an empty area. So now we'd still have to decide, are we gonna make it a park, or what are we gonna do with the area? Definitely no housing, because there's been that chatter as well. There will never be housing there.
But would there be an opportunity to revisit it at a possible lower cost for residents?
Nobody is saying to her that this is a non-binding
yes,
thing.
correct.
It
It-
actually doesn't matter if it gets voted down. I still have a question.
Wait, let me just try to address what she's saying. And, I mean, we're gonna go back and look at it. You know, I mean, the whole thing is I don't think there's an appetite to spend $1 million to have what we have right now, because that's not gonna attract anybody else. So I have the form in my office. I know we were looking at, Charlie, I have the email from you of the details, you know, some of the spray features.
Yeah, we were thinking off the top of my head, I think we had maybe $400,000 in features. Total, yeah.
That would be
And the one thing I'd
pumps,
like to
everything involved.
point out with that is if you remember back on the slide when we were looking at attendance numbers, and there was an allowance in there for a $10,000 deduction for a limited facility. And really what that is that represents the limited number of features we're putting in this pool already. And it's a different kind of model. If we were to go full out and get our full attendance numbers, we would be putting more features in. So what happens when you start pulling features out is you stop attracting the young kids, you stop attracting the teenagers or the preteens, and you start limiting the people who are going to come back. And if you just repair and replace what you have today, then you're not going to get any additional revenues out of it. So we're trying to provide a better service, better facility to attract more people in the community to help, and that offsets the cost of those features.
I just wanted to say, one of the former democracy days, the town turned down the library, if you remember. We were going to build a library down the street, and the town turned it down. Right. And the major reason is they did not want it in that location. Mayor Nesh, with some people from the library board and the council, I know Ray Rusnick was on the committee, came up with a plan, and we have now this beautiful library, okay? If this were to be defeated, it's non-binding. I am sure Mayor Nesh and the council and Councilman Dean and Councilwoman Festini would come up with some plan with Mr. Cullen that we're going to have this built. The thing that I think most of you have to realize, and I want to piggyback on what this lady said, this town is a very diverse town. You cannot just say wrestling or baseball or a park. Every
kid has a different activity. My son and I belonged to the pool since he was 3 years old. He was on the swim team from the age of 6 to 19.
18.
Well, 18, but he turned 19 that summer. Yeah, Katie and he. That with his swimming, he got a scholarship to Lehigh University. Okay, he was able to use that talent, just like many kids in this town are wrestlers, and they get their scholarships wrestling. You know, we can't just think about a $20 tax. The school board asked us for money. It passed. We want our schools to be an attraction for people coming into this district. This is one of the reasons why I moved to South Plainfield in 1990, was because they had a community pool. And I think you can't be, I hate to use the term selfish, but think, well, I don't use the pool, so why should my taxes go up? I don't use the wrestling facility, or I use the senior center very limitedly. My son didn't go to school in South Plainfield. He went to Sacred Heart, but I still paid my school tax. So I think that's what you have to realize. It's to enhance our town.
And I understand that, but what I was just asking was that if it gets voted down, is there an opportunity that the pool will continue somehow?
Well, I mean, we're,
Talking apart, because I know that with the library, it was a couple of times, I think, before the budget was approved and passed.
you know, in fairness to Councilman Dean and Councilman Faustini, I mean, I think it's kind of hard for us to say what's going to happen. Does it almost pass? Does it pass by a lot? Does it lose by a lot? I mean, there's so many what ifs there. I think it's very difficult for them to really kind of make a decision. I can just tell you this: it's not going to be left the way it is. So we're going to have to figure something out. I mean, what that something out is, I think we're going to cross that bridge. I mean, what had happened last time is they appointed a committee and they looked at it. I mean, I'm sure they're going to have some type of game plan, but I think right now it's kind of premature for them to say what that game plan is now going into it. Again, ma'am?
I think Mrs. Egan had one more
I
question,
have a
right?
real easy
Okay.
question.
Okay.
Yeah, I've heard you say that we need to have an additional, I'm assuming you mean toilet, in the bathroom. 'cause
Well,
there's not enough. But,
we would we would have to have a family restroom is what
right,
we're looking
okay,
at.
so an additional restroom. But something will be done with the showers as well, right?
Yeah, yeah, I
Besides
see-
an outside shower, which I really approve of.
Correct,
Because I
no-
missed it after you guys,
Yeah, what
rid
I
of
said
the-
is the boys'
outside
room,
shower.
the girls' room, the locker rooms, whatever you want to call them,
Yeah.
they're going to be renovated.
yeah, because the showers, I'm 5'3", the way they have the showers rigged now, I can't reach the chain to pull the shower. So there's one that's supposed to be for little kids, that's about 4 feet off the ground. That's the handle I have to use, and kind of like squish under it.
Get some longer chains.
Okay, ma'am in the back,
I know
you're asking a question.
Jules is waiting.
So I was wondering if you knew what the total running cost was, say, last year.
Here's the thing is, the operating costs that we had a year ago are similar to what you're seeing right here. So when you're seeing this operating cost, but there was debt service that was, like the debt service here, we're not showing within the pool budget. So we're having that's going to fall on the actual municipal budget. The other thing is the operating cost from a year ago, we're spending enormous sums of money on chemicals. So this is why when we finally looked at this, the operating costs from a year ago are about as what you're seeing here are really larger, and is partly because of the inefficiencies of the existing pool. I mean, we were at a situation where, Katie's here, but she wasn't one of the guards a year ago, where we were going through pool chemicals like we haven't done in years. And so we're hoping now that we'll be able to use a computer system. We're hoping that all of those things will fall into the model that's being put together here right now.
Wasn't the water like constantly filling too?
Oh, yeah.
So that's why you're going through so many chemicals, because you're losing water just as fast as you're filling it up. So you got to constantly put these chemicals into balancing.
Right, so can you also tell me what was the total number of people per day in the past couple of years? So you have a projection for an increased membership. What was it last year? What was it the year before?
Well, our our membership numbers, we had I think it's 365 seniors, 312, oh, here we go, I'm sorry. Yeah, 365 seniors.
No, I see
312.
those numbers here, but I mean per day. So you have a per day projection, right, for
Correct.
an increase?
Offhand, I don't have a per day projection. I mean per day number from a year ago. And once again, that's why we had them do when I'm saying them, meaning Brand Sitter and Carol, do a market analysis, because they do a lot of master plans. I think they're doing one right now for Westfield.
Right.
And we're looking at this being such a difference that we just felt that we needed somebody to do that type of evaluation for us.
Yeah,
I mean, it's hard, it would be nice to have a comparison to what it was in the past couple of years. And I'm sure there's gotta be some way to pull some of that data so that I personally can make a decision.
Correct.
Yeah, and then there was day passes. I mean, guests scanned in, and then in addition to that, we sold day passes. So if you put those two things together, we should be able to, you know, maybe look at a 4th of July, and then maybe look at a sunny day, and kind of give you a,
Those numbers are available somewhere, right? I mean, if you scan passes, you should be able to pull that data and
well,
tell
we,
us
yeah, I don't know if we scan daily passes.
Once again,
Yeah.
I mean, I'd have to find out who was working the desks.
Right.
There's somebody all the way in the back. Who's that? Oh, Jennifer, I'm sorry. Jen I.
Do you want, why don't you take the mic, Jen?
Oh, no,
Who has the mic? Who has the mic? Sorry.
Oh, yeah, I know. I just want to say I worked at the community pool for 11 years. I was a lifeguard there. I was a swim instructor. I oversaw the swim lessons that took place there. I was a co-manager, and then I worked my way up to a manager of the community pool. When you talk about daily, how many people actually came into the facility, you also have to remember the swim lessons in the morning. They were done before the pool was actually open, and you had hundreds of kids that learned how to swim there. Being a lifetime resident of South Plainfield, I actually learned how to swim there myself. And remember, swimming is such a valuable skill. It's something that you use for your entire life. So just having a facility where we could teach our children how to swim, I think is really important. Having a facility like this, you could also do things where you could teach adults how to swim that might not know how to swim. You could do senior citizen aerobics, sure. Having a pool like this could just lend to so much more in our community. In addition to that, let's see, Safety Town. Safety Town was a program that would come to the facility and we would teach the children pool safety. That's really important for children to have an understanding of. In addition to Safety Town, I recall going there for my DARE picnic, my 6th grade picnic, my 7th grade picnic, my 8th grade picnic. Hundreds of kids used the pool. Having the pool in our town will allow us to unite as, you know, it's just, I'm really upset that people can see this as not being a good thing. Working, okay? Teenage workers. So as I was a co-manager and a manager, just teaching these children work ethic, responsibility, having their first job, going out, maybe not all of our children in high school go to college, having something to put on their resume. Right now I'm in a position where I'm a director of recreation in Woodbridge, at the club at Woodbridge. So many kids bringing their applications with nothing on them. How am I gonna hire you if you have nothing on your application? But being able to put that you worked at a community pool, that's a talking point. That's something that they can contribute. So having a pool, you know, could be fun for our residents, but it's so valuable. So when you do come out to vote, I just hope you kind of think of some of these things that I mentioned, because $20 for all of that seems like a no-brainer to me.
And I'll just mention, you know, with Jennifer's comments, I think last year the number, I mean, one of the numbers I did have is, I think we did 556 swim lessons last year. So, you know, we did a significant amount of swim lessons. Also, what Jennifer had mentioned with the different age groups, you know, each one of those schools, I believe, bring close to, each one of those grades, I should say, that have their event there, I'll just call it an event, have roughly 300 kids just, you know, in those few hours that they have there, in addition to what takes place in the evening. Ma'am, I know you've been waiting.
Okay, we had enjoyed the pool for the last 40 years, and I think we're very upset that it isn't gonna be open this year. But what my problem is I said, I can't understand that we would add now a climbing wall that I assume that will cost more insurance in the long run, liability insurance, plus more personnel to watch those kids on the climbing wall. I mean, we love the pool, don't get me wrong, everything should be wonderful, but I don't know if this is absolutely necessary.
All right, here's what you have with the climbing wall. The climbing wall itself is kind of, I guess, tilted, for lack of a better word, back into the pool.
Curved into the pool.
It's curved into the pool, so it's not like you could fall over onto the cement. The only place to fall is going to be back into the water. And the person who's going to be watching that is really no different than when we had the diving boards there. So you're going to have a lifeguard there that's going to keep an eye on the two climbing walls and the two slides. So it really shouldn't be much different than what was taking place with the dives. So,
I know it's just in the planning, you know.
and I mean,
but
and obviously you see in the little slides, which really never really operated that well, are no longer on, you know, a feature. Okay.
If this goes through as planned, do you have the same amount of room that you need?
Well, you know, that's actually a great question that didn't come up tonight. That came up at the last meeting, and that is, and I think it was actually posted on one of the slides, and that is what size facility should we really have for 25,000 roughly residents, and we currently are at about 12,000, I guess, it's square
I think
foot.
it's almost 13,000.
Of pool surface, and a municipality of our size should at least have just under 10. It's like 9,600, and this is going to have over 11,000. Was it 11.5? I think it was.
Right in
the
between
slide.
those two numbers.
So somewhere around 11.5. So we're going to lose a little bit of pool surface, not a lot. We may actually be gaining a little swim areas, kind of, or play areas with the wading pool. But the pool itself, and most of the loss, correct me if I'm wrong, Charlie, is really the peninsula.
The peninsulas,
And
right?
so the peninsula's kind of taken away a little bit of surface, I guess, size of the pool, but that's really it. I mean, it's certainly more than adequate for a municipality our size.
Yeah, we wanted
Ms.
to limit
Meckel?
the number of walls we were tearing down and rebuilding, because the more you tear out, the more the costs go
So
up.
it would be essentially contained in the same footprint it is now.
That is the goal. We have to
Yeah.
cut and push some walls, but the goal is to maintain the existing walls as much as possible.
My question is, will the baby pool, the wading pool area be fenced in the way it is now, locked up for the little children?
It'll most likely have some type of fencing area. And what this leads to is, talking to Charlie, I know there's a number of pools, and maybe even one of the ones in Morristown. No, it wasn't the Ginty, but there's been a number of pools where kind of the zero entry is the baby pool area. And what I guess they've kind of found and experienced is, once you start having accidents, the whole pool shuts down. So I guess the move towards having the zero entry, including baby pool, has turned out to be some issues with other pools. I don't want to get into too many details
Yeah,
here.
there
My
are a
wife's in
number
the
of
room.
pools we
So,
designed.
Anyway,
Yes,
so what we finally decided is to still maintain the baby pool and have features in there that are very appealing to toddlers and children of that size. And whereas the zero entry area, some of those features may be features and such that, you know, maybe scare the toddler away, but are very, very appealing to somebody of an older age group, and to kind of have those ages separated
And have a fence.
and have a fence.
I
If you want a fence, you'll have a fence.
Running after
The fence won't be too much.
toddlers,
Yes.
I think it should be fenced.
Yeah, we will need a fence, yes. Yeah.
Will the entire complex be fenced in?
Yes. as it currently is, yeah.
Yeah, and that is one of the problems. I know everybody in town here is still trying to figure out how to deal with the deer. There are some openings in the back over there on those houses on West Crescent Parkway. You know, this whole area is gonna have to be fenced in to keep the deer out. Yes, ma'am, I'm sorry.
Okay, I think I have three questions. One is kind of funny though, but, all right, that $600,000 in debt, okay, that is pool debt?
Yeah.
What is that?
Okay, so here's what that is. So we borrowed $400,000 back in 2015. That $400,000, what we did is the 12-foot area was filled in, okay? We had to rip out the dives. We had to put in the slide, and we had to redo the entire pump house. So the entire pump house was redone. So we borrowed $400,000 on that, but we wanted to once again be realistic to what we're paying. That $400,000 is the principal portion. There's an interest portion as well. So when you play it all out, that's where you're looking at your $600,000. I think Mr. Schneider had mentioned earlier that most of that we've been able to keep intact, and we're going to be able to still utilize whatever the word is, and that would have all had to have been ripped out if we were to put the dives back in. I mean, that's just, and it just did. That's why I said it just didn't make economic sense.
Well,
it would have been more costly, and we would have ripped out something we've already paid for.
And,
Yeah, I'm sorry, John.
and even if it wasn't done then, it would be done now, and we'd still be $600,000
Right.
more.
I just want, because
Yep.
we still have this debt that
Correct.
we're hanging.
Correct,
It's like,
and that's what it is. It's really only 3 years old, the debt, because the first year you're really not paying any interest, and so it's really, the debt is really pretty new.
Okay. The other one was, if this passes and it becomes super popular, is there a cap on daily attendance? I mean,
Yeah, there probably would have to be. I mean, I know that's come up before, but I mean, yes and no, Cheryl. I think the issue has been, we've had a cap on some of the daily passes. We've never, ever approached a cap on the actual membership. So,
yeah, you're not there yet.
yeah, we're nowhere near that. We hope we have that
It'd
problem.
be a good problem to have.
Yeah,
Here's the funny one, okay? This is gonna be a joke, so don't get.
Okay.
You said you're gonna have a peninsula in the center where there's shade and
Actually,
all
2 of
that?
them, yeah.
All right, is there a bench and we could have like happy hour and margaritas?
There is a bench.
You know,
Bar's up to them.
okay.
You're not the first person to
Feed all
ask
your
that.
Residents, some of us have more interest in other things. All right, that's funny, that's it, I'm done.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, first of all, so will there be an opportunity for people who don't want a full membership to get something like a half membership or for a certain amount of time in the summer if they're residents?
Yeah, it's something we're definitely going to look into. I've been looking at what other pools in the area offer. One of the examples is that another pool had was like a weekend holiday membership. So you could pay a little less than a full membership. Maybe you're working, you're not coming during the week, and maybe you could go, nights and weekends only, and that was a slightly reduced
Okay.
rate. So yeah, we are going to look, we are researching, putting that together. Hopefully this will definitely go through, and then, we're going to take all that into consideration. And other ways to keep continuing to increase our membership.
Okay, I want to clarify something because I brought up something and people have made comments. I myself probably won't use this pool. I used it when my son was younger and we loved it. I do think it's a very, very good plan. I think it will enhance our town. I think it is important to have things that keep people in town. That's what makes a town good, when people stay. I just don't believe it's $20 a year. That's all I'm saying. I become sort of defensive and maybe even a little insulted when someone lowballs me, whether I'm buying a car or I'm getting an estimate on an addition in the house or anything else. So I don't buy that it's $20 a year. I do think that if you charge too much, there's going to be, mini revolution, so I don't think it's going to go that way. I just feel that it should be a more realistic impact statement on us, that's all.
Well-
But I do
well-
believe it's a good idea.
All right, I'll just do this very simple for everybody here, okay? If you take $20, okay, there's currently 7,400 households in town. You take 7,400 times 20 times 20, you're gonna get roughly $3 million, okay? So, and that's just households. So you got to remember, the assessments on the commercial properties are also going to be paying that same $20. So that's why it's really not, you know,
It's not really.
I know
not
it's
really off. It's not
correct.
lowball.
I know it sounds crazy,
Yes,
but
it sounds like a low ball, yeah.
But when you do the math right there alone, you're at $3 million. We're telling you the project's $2.4 million. So what's the difference in interest? That portion's really being picked up by commercial properties. So that's why, like I said, it doesn't sound. When you hear 20 as a household, you say, how can that be? There's roughly 7,400 homes, condos,
Right.
townhouses in South
Okay,
Plainfield.
thank you.
You're welcome. Is that it? Sure.
If this pool membership doesn't go up, we're not gonna be able to, the town's gonna have to put money into it, correct?
I said it would be very reasonable to, I mean, I'm not saying that that nothing will change, but it's gonna be, you're not gonna see doublings or anything like that. It's gonna be in the ballpark. There's no promises that this pool is gonna be able to pay for the debt service. And that's why I think we're giving you an estimate of saying $20 per household, because.
Operating costs for a year.
Yeah, we believe it will. Yeah, we believe it will, correct.
You believe it will? What if nobody, what if the membership doesn't go up? What if it stays the
So
same?
what if it stays at the same?
Well, I mean, I mean, if it stays the same, you're still gonna have a pool that is gonna have a fraction of the cost of the chemicals. You could have, I mean, like I said, we're putting forward what we believe is a reasonable estimate. You know, if all of a sudden everybody decides to boycott the pool, I mean, I can't, you know, I can't answer that. I just don't think it's, you know, it's likely.
You're saying it couldn't take care of itself because the costs were too high, because the pool was in bad shape?
Correct.
So if membership stays the same, how much does the pool make a year?
The pool is.
It loses. How much money does membership bring in?
Membership right now is bringing in somewhere in the neighborhood of $150,000 to $160,000. Correct. But what I had said earlier today is there were features, and I'll give you the example. You know, we gave out 56 swim lessons. You know, the pool was in such disrepair, you know, we were afraid having the cheap membership, having the cheap cost of the swim lessons were things that were keeping the membership where it was. And in retrospect, you know, maybe if membership, you know, if the swim lessons were $25 versus $10, maybe we wouldn't have lost much of anything. So we also think I'm trying to parse my words here. One of the big complaints that we got when we announced that the pool was in opening was from individuals that were over 55 who had kids in the community that said, I don't have the 10-day passes to give to my son or my daughter, their family, to come to the pool. So we do believe that there were probably some things that we had built into our structure that we didn't want to change because we were afraid that it would affect our membership, that going forward we think maybe should be handled differently. That's, you know, that.
If you, let's say we do have hopefully more members, parking over there is tough.
You know, that is something we're trying to figure out. And the reason why we're saying we're trying to figure it out is once we start fixing that parking lot, there are areas that we know if once we start changing it, there's some compliance issues. So we're trying to figure out what we could do for the parking. The parking's a problem. You're absolutely right. It's. I'm sorry?
How many parking spaces are there now?
You know, I don't know that offhand.
The
I'm sorry.
lines are so worn out.
Yeah, yeah. You know what, Charlie, you want to guess? You're the
I'm
engineer.
trying to think. I'd probably say around 100 parking spaces if I had to guess. I've not studied it that closely.
Yeah, so,
Tough going, I mean, it's tough. When I did belong to the pool, I mean, you had to like sit and wait.
it's tough, and the first lane off of, the first row of parking spaces in Katy Lane, they're backing it out into traffic, which today, by today's standards, if we start to do that, we would probably lose those lanes, which isn't gonna enhance the parking situation, may enhance the look, but it's gonna make it more difficult.
Yeah, but at least by
Well, yeah,
moving
no,
the,
no, I'm not doing a parking
yeah.
deck presentation.
but at least by moving the entrance, it'll be safer. You won't have to, if you can park closer to the entrance by moving the entrance there, especially when you have chairs and kids in tow, you can kind of hopefully park closer and not have to cross Katy Lane as often to go in with your kids and your chairs.
Yes, Ms. Dorian.
I think it's really beautiful, and I would love to see it in our community. The one thing I would like to know, though, in hindsight, will we have something in place where this pool, somebody be watching so that the pool is maintained properly and not be allowed to fall in disrepair? I had an in-ground pool for many years, and I know every year we had a lot of things we had to do, whether you had the money or not. We need to make sure that there's going to be somebody that has an eye on it, so that if things start breaking, they don't just stay broken because nobody's fixing them. I think that's something I've heard a lot of people talking about, that things haven't been fixed over the years.
Well, once they're fixed here, I think we're looking at making a lot of changes with how the pool is being handled.
Okay, thank you.
And it's a very good idea to have a maintenance plan in place.
Wouldn't that be good?
And to address the attendance question, we do a lot of these studies, and we're making these projections. And do we hit the numbers every single time? No, but we do go back and we talk to people in Morris County. We talk to people in all the facilities we've built to make sure to see year after year, because if you have a bad summer, a cold summer, a wet summer, your numbers will go down. But what happens when it's a hot, dry summer? So we try to average it out over the course. And most of the time, not every single time, the majority of the time, the projections come true that we're covering the operating costs of the pool. That's our goal.
Right to their opinion.
Oh, absolutely.
You know what I mean? And you're not right because you believe in somebody else. You know what I mean? And people are worried. Some people, $20 is a lot of money. We have seniors that can't buy medicine. I just don't like the comments from the cheering group to put down. You don't know somebody's life. You know what I mean? And it just.
Listen.
That isn't a problem for me, but.
Oh, listen, I agree with you. Listen, I'm fairly active on Facebook. I try to stay out of, personally, I don't really post that much, anybody that I'm friends with here. I myself have parents in town that are 92 years old. My dad's a World War II vet, so, they're on a fixed income. So, I have a pretty large family in town where all of us have gone through the swimming pool. I've had my daughter swam in college as well, just like Cheryl Smiley. So, I get what you're saying. I agree with you. And so, but what we think, what the council thinks is what we're presenting here kind of appeals to people of all ages. And we're hoping that everybody sees the value in that. And, as Councilman Dean had said, I've had people say, well, shouldn't we possibly, like John said, move to some other location where maybe there wasn't a water table issue? And that site work alone would probably double the cost of this project. So, this is the location for it. We wish there was more parking, but this is the location for it.
You're gonna pave there?
Yes, we're gonna pave there, but
Can
we're.
I ask a favor? If you have a little extra paving, could you go pave by recycling? Because it's.
I thought you said you live by the community pool, and that's not by recycling.
I go recycling all the time.
You what?
And I go recycling all the time.
Okay.
You can get whiplash over there. So if you have a couple of shovels, I'll even put it in for you. I've been bothering Matt about this.
Well-
It drives me insane.
Well,
I'll talk to Lenny tomorrow.
okay.
I think,
It's hot now. It's like a pool there. I went the other day, and I'm like.
I know what you're talking about. I know what
Ma'am?
I think one of the issues that I personally had was I'd like to see the pool stay. My kids went through the pool. They had swim lessons there. We spent many summers there. We spent summers there where I couldn't afford vacations, so I used the community pool for my kids. So I definitely want to see the pool stay. I just am concerned about how much money we're putting into the pool. And when I see projections like 495 people a day are going to come to the pool, I get concerned because with all the years that I spent at the pool, I don't think I ever remember seeing that many people at the pool ever, especially in August.
Well, you got to remember, that's not one time.
No, it also, it's like what Jen was saying, there's hundreds of kids coming in the morning for swim lessons from 9 to 12. Swim team members are in there. So this is 500 maybe through the course of the entire day. Maybe,
Correct.
200 might go in there in the morning before it even opens. So, I mean, it's kind of, it's a whole day from 8 in the morning till 8 at night. It's not 500 in at one time.
Well, no, I understand, I get
okay.
that, but I don't know that I consider swim lessons as part of that.
No, I mean, they're members, yeah.
Oh, no, I understand that. My kids took swim lessons there. I mean, they were on the swim team, but,
Well, those are in those numbers, is what I'm saying.
oh,
Yeah.
okay, all right.
I have a question about parking.
Yeah.
I understand that we'll lose some of the parking if we have the other entrance, and that's fine. Because here's my question: if the entrance is over on the other side, where right now a lot of the pool staff park, so I hope people understand like what direction they're talking about coming in at.
That's correct.
What, is there a problem? I mean, unless there was a game going on, couldn't some of the parking over by the field be used? Like all around the football field has that huge lot?
Correct.
And I mean, that's on that side where the new entrance would be. So that's a lot of parking that would now be close to the entrance.
Yes,
That's a
I
good
mean,
point.
that would be closer, and the current handicap parking there, we would probably look to see if we could do, not that it's very much, but I don't know if maybe that would go for some staff parking or another entrance. We haven't figured that part of the site work, but you're right. I mean, it would make the walk a lot shorter, because right now everybody's got to walk past that area in order to get through the front door, and you would no longer have to do that.
Right.
Go ahead, Cheryl.
The wooded area, is that part of the pool complex, or is that privately owned? Because that could even be expanded and, I mean, not the first year, but cutting the trees and.
There's kind of a berm there. Offhand, I can't, I'm not sure. I believe it's town property, but I'm not, offhand, I don't know that. Is that everybody?
What about the parking lot on the column facing facing Maple Avenue? Could that be opened up for parking? In one area?
We have that new sign there, but I know what you're saying. You have a lot of grass. I mean, I'm not an engineer. I mean, John would know that better than me.
We did talk about that at one of our meetings as well, and I think it's not a real large area, and the cost to actually do it probably really wouldn't be worth it. By the time you take out the curbs and put in the entranceway and dig it out, there is drainage all inside there as well, so that would have to be relocated, and to curb it all out and then pave it it'd probably only be fitting maybe 20 cars over there. Yeah, because you're not going to get back to back. You'd only be able to park like nose in right up to the to PAL building. So 20 cars max, and probably closer to the area of 15.
And probably at $2,000 a spot, so that's.
Yeah. So it really that wouldn't really be cost worthy.
Yes, sir.
Goes through and it as is, and it becomes very successful. It actually makes money as a profit. Would that profit money stay within the pool operation?
Well, I believe the governing body would probably let some stay there, and some would come as an offset to taxes. Yeah, I mean, I think that's probably what would happen. So,
Yeah, I would imagine that some of it would stay and go into its own fund. That so the time when there is work that needs to be done, it's paying for itself again, coming into the future.
now, one of the items that wasn't asked tonight, that was asked at the last meeting is, how long is it gonna take to build? So I think that was one of the
that's-
questions. And we're hoping if everything passes, we'd have to do an ordinance that requires 2 readings. Engineering, we'd have to do the design. We don't have already a design, we have a conceptual design, but, they break down to every little unit cost on everything, and then it would go out to bid. So you're probably looking at August, September, the construction starting, and we're looking at 6 to 8 months. So it would probably be, the timing is, it would be, next April or May that it would be finishing.
Yeah, no, so yeah, construction on the pool usually goes about 9 to 10 months. 10's pushing it, I think, but we're used to building them, closing them, at the end of summer, and everyone wanted to be open for Memorial Day. That's what the contractors are used to, that's what we're used to, that's what the whole industry is geared to. So that's what we would be pushing for, would be open for 2020. The weather is always a concern. When we were working on Ginty, they were out there with jackhammers trying to get through frost to install pipes, just to keep the project moving. And that, I believe that one opened maybe 2 weeks late into June, which around here is not the end of the world because y'all aren't looking at Memorial Day openings necessarily. So you would be for the weekends. I think they're opening on weekends starting Memorial Day, so they weren't able to open their first 2 or 3 weekends as planned. But that does happen.
My only question is, in the very beginning, you spoke of spring water underneath the pool, and that's where you got a lot of your damage from the spring water.
Well,
My question would be, what are you going to do when you put all new stuff on? What are you going to prevent that from happening?
well, we mentioned that we will have a dewatering system in there
Right.
if it's required. I mean, one of the big problems is that 12-foot section was below the water table. I mean, so it was under constant pressure. So, and that's partly why we filled in 5 feet. So there'll be main drains, there'll be a dewatering system. So, we're building this to handle any type of water table issues.
In other words, you'll have it up above the water?
No, so one of the things that we do, and we did this at Princeton, is if required, we need to get geotechnical evaluation to see how high that water table is. But you can go in there and this sounds horrible, but trench out the bottom of the pool and put in French drains and take those over to the side and drain the water out into the storm system. And that relieves all the pressure from underneath it from causing any more issues. We do this a lot in pools. Pools end up in low-lying areas all the time. So that's, that adds to the cost, but we've planned for that right now into the cost of the project.
Okay, thank you.
When I had done the site visit to the Ginty pool up in Morris Township, or the Township of Morris, that's kind of what was described to me, that their pool situation was very similar to South Plainfield, where it was kind of a watering hole, and then that watering hole, they were looking for a place for people to swim. I guess they started putting in chlorine and then sand, and then the next thing you know, it was the location to build a pool. And, for anybody that had a kid on the Tiger Sharks, you swam at Chatham Colony, your kid dove in a little pond there, and so it seems like this is a very common thing, and that's why Charlie says they're used to dealing with it.
Yeah.
I have a question. My understanding has always been that the spring water is what filled the pool, like we weren't really paying for water. Is that true?
That is true.
Now, would that still be able to be used?
That would still fill the pool. I think Charlie's going to have to ask regarding some of the features. So I believe some of the features within the zero entry area is recycled water from the pool itself, I believe, and some of it,
Yes, yeah.
and some of it over in the baby pool may actually be from the regular city water. But
Yeah.
the pool itself would still be filled from our spring.
Okay,
Yeah.
so,
Yeah, and then once the
really
water's-
there wasn't a whole lot of payment for water.
No, it was chemicals.
That was the
That's what-
chemicals.
That's what you would say, it was chemicals.
Yeah, so you got to balance out all that water when it comes in.
I just know that a lot of people were not aware that it was the spring water that was feeding the pool.
Yes.
Okay, Thank you.
You're welcome. In the back?
We did ask that.
That was
So-
asked at the last meeting.
Yeah, so the saltwater pools are great for smaller pools. We've done a few of them in larger and senior living facilities. They're real popular there. The problems you run into when you start to scale it up, you're using electricity to turn salt into chlorine, basically. So you're still ending up with chlorine in the water. It's just a lot more neutral and softer. But the problem you run into is when you have all that electricity pumping through, and this sounds scary too, is you run into stray currents. And the currents aren't dangerous, but what they do is they start corroding pumps, and they start corroding if you had heaters and ladders. And so because everything has to be tied together electrically so it doesn't cause any kind of shocks. So we've learned that those really cause a lot of corrosion on pools and really don't add that much benefit. Then on top of that, you got to maintain the systems. And to maintain the salt systems is more costly than the liquid chlorine, which is just a very simple, easy way to take care of it.
All right, is that it? All right, well, listen, on behalf of, I guess, John, Christine, and the council, and Charlie here, thank you, everybody, for coming out.
Thank you.